Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I always enjoy shows where, honestly, I don't know a lot about the subject matter for the week because I learn more that way, and I like it. Our guest this week, a first-time visitor, Barb Cowan. Barb is Director of Operations for Partnership for Children here in Missoula. Welcome to the show, Barb.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, glad you could make it. We always have to do the get acquainted. What is Partnership for Children, and what is its Missoula history?
Missoula history. So Partnership for Children is an organization that serves youth and families. In particular, we have two group homes that are for children. So they're ages 4 to about 12, which we call the latency age. And they are treatment homes. Kids stay there when they have had pretty difficult young childhoods.
Right.
And need really treatment. Like lots of these children have been in and out of, they may be 7 and they've had 11 placements already in foster families with relatives, et cetera. So that's one side is our residential side, we call it. The other side is our mental health center. Our mental health center works with, again, children and families. Our specialty really is working with the parent-child relationship. So really trying to bring healing and health to the family through, maybe doing some repair on a relationship or really maybe helping a parent understand their parenting and how it could change a little bit to adapt to the child's needs, et cetera. And then we have a very special program called Project Welcome, and that is around perinatal mental health. So we work with parents who are in the perinatal period, which is pregnancy through about the first 1,000 days of the child's life. So about 0 to 3. We extend it out a little bit because a lot of families need help a little later and come in a little later. Some of these parents are dealing, particularly moms, are dealing with perinatal mood disorders, which are pretty common, and we're learning more and more about them. Anxiety, depression, OCD, different things that really come along with a lot of the hormonal changes of pregnancy. So we help those families, and we also work with families that are experiencing issues around substance use.
Right.
So those might be parents that are dealing with substance use even through pregnancy or through parenting. So those are sort of our areas of expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of fixated on the term latency age for 4 to 12. What does that term mean exactly?
Oh, well, if you must know, it's really a Freudian term.
Okay. You're going to analyze me today, aren't you?
No, I am not going to analyze.
Block test of things.
Exactly, and then I'll tell the audience.
It's a Freudian term.
No, it is a Freudian term, but it really is. It kind of describes an age when children are going through a developmental stage where they are, well, in Freudian terms, where they're less sexualized, but 4 to 12, they're really they become very focused on the peer, right? So not just the caregiver, but also the peer as well, and that kind of interaction. So they are learning to be little human beings in Montessori terms.
All right.
In these stages.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. Now, your affiliation with other similar programs here in Missoula?
So for our history, we are approaching our 25th year in Missoula, and we are a collaborative effort between the youth homes, which many of you have heard of, and Intermountain, who has its headquarters in Helena, but is spread across the state. So the Intermountain had a clinical approach to working with latency age kids in the 80s that was working. And the youth homes, really their expertise was with adolescents and families. And so, and they're also very community-based. Intermountain was campus-based. So they took the clinical side and the community-based side, and they put those two expertises together and created Partnership for Children. So we are technically owned by those two organizations, but we're our own 501c3 as well.
All right. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate here on News Talk KGVO. My guest, Barb Cowan, Director of Operations for Partnership for Children in Missoula. Your background, Barb, what led you to the position of Operations Director?
Well, all right. So I have a master's in social work. Also do some teaching at the university in their graduate program. Nice. Just to keep myself alive, because all those nice new brains with all their great energy really, it keeps me... it keeps me in the research and everything else. So that's pretty wonderful. I appreciate that. But I have been an agency person for a long time. I worked at the youth homes when I was younger in the 90s. And I then went back and got my master's and was working at the university and got a phone call from my old director who said, I have a position I think you should apply for. So I went back and became the operations director. He said, you've got it too easy. You've got to have a little harder work on your plate. So that's how he got me back there. Yeah, which I've loved.
No regrets.
No regrets.
That's excellent. The children you serve, we started to touch on that. They have not led the easiest of lives. How do you find each other? I couldn't think of any other way to ask that.
No, it's a great question, Denny. It's a great question. There are a lot of different ways we find each other. Sometimes it is through child and family services. So perhaps a family hasn't been able to take care of their child for myriad reasons in a safe manner, and they will have temporary guardianship then of the child. And their first... CFS first would like to reunify. If that can't happen, they'll look for relatives, which are called kinship families, or foster families. But some of our kids just, if you think about little kids, they don't have a lot of regulation skills. They don't understand no very well. They don't understand time frames. They don't really know how to do relationships very well yet. And so a lot of them are too much for foster families. They can be, when they've had trauma also, they tend to regress because some of their developmental stages really haven't been done in a very complete or healthy way. So an 8-year-old might tantrum for 2 hours like a 2-year-old, and that's a lot for families.
Sure.
So CFS and other agencies as well. Sometimes we get referrals from schools. We even get referrals from families themselves. Sometimes post-adopt a child, that was beautiful and easy at 2 or easy enough may not be as easy at 8 or 10. So that might be when we step in. So we work a lot with the families as well. And it's always a great big congratulations when we can figure out a reunification, really.
What are some of the challenges you face when you are helping children try to overcome, I would assume, a lot of fears, and they have to, in many cases, they have to learn to trust?
Oh, you are so right on that one. So yes, a lot of our kids have had very unpredictable situations that they're living in. So they may have had neglect, abuse, both physical and sexual, psychological. Some of them have gone without enough food. The unpredictable part is the hardest part, and also neglect. So if you think about a little tiny one whose brain is in formation. Remember, our brains form for 26 years before they're fully knit. They're going through stages of trying to learn how to regulate. If they don't have a parent that is comforting them, feeding them, keeping them warm, and all of those things, then their regulation system doesn't get that complete circle of being calmed again, right? So they don't even learn how to do the regulation piece by themselves. So that regulation is a really big piece for our kids. Their fears are real. I mean, think about being a 6-year-old and being in a strange place with strange people. Mm-hmm. And that's who enters our home. And a lot of times they've had they have lots of grief and loss. So we try to train our staff on attending to grief and loss, being really, really predictable and safe, and then the unconditional regard. So our kids are going to try things. They'll try, because they're survivors. So a lot of what some people see as maladaptive behaviors in the classroom or in families, we try to look at that as those were their survival skills. Look at that, good for them. But they don't work when you try to put them in families and other scenarios. So helping them with those.
Right. Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk KGVO. My guest, Barb Cowan, Director of Operations for Partnership for Children here in Missoula. And as you were talking about that, I'm just thinking the the stories you hear, so many must be very heartbreaking. Can you share any examples, Barb, of how some of these kids were fortunate enough to find a safe place to land, like Partnership for Children?
Well, I think of this story today because this little girl is adopted now. I have to be very careful because people might be able to recognize stories of families. So I'll be a little vague here. But
absolutely.
This little one was adopted a few years ago. She was with us when she was pretty little, and she had her birthday today. So I got to see, this lovely post this morning about how well she's doing and that it's her birthday from this really lovely family. They still are in contact with us because they want us to know how well this child is doing. So that child came to us, and it was sad circumstances. There were substance use issues involved, and really that is probably at the crux of why family fell apart. And they tried to get them back together. It didn't work. So anyway, she's gone on to have this really lovely family. And she has a sibling that was not placed with her for a number of reasons that we didn't make that decision. But that child is now just on the cusp of also being adopted, and both into just terribly wonderful families.
Yeah.
So lucky enough, but really the people who work the hardest are these kids, because they do have to confront some pretty difficult histories and their fears and learn to trust adults before they can begin these healthy relationships. And that's really what we see as the heart of healing.
What about your facilities? I want to ask you about what your facilities are like. Tell us about the Rosemary Gallagher Home and the Missoula Sunrise Children's Home, along with their similarities and their differences.
Right. Rosemary Gallagher Home was clearly named after Rosemary Gallagher, which many of you remember Rosemary for many of the very gracious things she's did in the community, and Gallagher Business Building as well, she and her husband.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So they were a very gracious family, and that is how that home was named. The other home, Missoula Sunrise Children's Home, we have had a 20-year relationship with Sunrise Rotary, and for both of the homes, so that is who that's named after, but for both of the homes, Sunrise Rotary has come in. I think they do things about 6 or 8 times a year at least with our kids. And our kids will say, when are the Rotary people coming back? Because they take them to Discovery. They rent all their ski equipment for them. They ski with them. I mean, we're there too.
Yeah.
They do special dinners. They take them on bike rides. They do pumpkin carving with chili feeds. They just do so many things for our kids. So that's where the names of the homes come from, and our gratitude to both donors and people who really take their own time, to have relationships with these kids and show these kids how many trusting adults there are out there that'll come back again and again. So that's the names. They're both really beautiful homes structurally. Both of them are going through some remodeling right now, just because we feel like our kids deserve beautiful homes. So that's happening now. It was scheduled to happen, guess what, of course, right before the emergency pandemic shutdown.
Yeah.
And so we had to wait a couple of years, and but now it's beginning to shape up. So some painting and new flooring and all kinds of good things.
Yeah.
Big yards. They both have great big yards. Another job we have is helping these children feel like kids and have the opportunity to play. So
Yeah.
great big yards.
That was exactly what I was thinking when you were describing some of the activities, because these activities, a lot of kids in normal, fairly well-to-do homes, that's just day-to-day business as usual, kind of stuff. For these kids, it's not.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of behavior evaluation goes into every child in terms of what is best for each. What are you trying to determine that will be the most beneficial next steps for them?
We work, of course, with many professionals across the state. Another place you asked where we get our kids, another referral source is Shodare Children's Hospital, which is
Right, yeah.
Yeah, many of you have heard of Show Dare. They are in Helena, and we work with them. They are they're called a psychiatric rehabilitation treatment facility. Sometimes these names are overwhelming. But basically, they're a place that kids that are having, pretty scary mental health behaviors will go, and then they will come to us. So we work with their clinicians as well with the diagnoses that a child might come with. And then we have clinicians in each of the group homes as well. So they work full-time with the kids, not full-time with the kids, they work with the kids doing family therapy and individual therapy. So what we look for a match for our program is oftentimes they have what is called an attachment disorder. It sounds a little scary. It is a little scary. It might mean that they were highly neglected as little ones,
Sure, right.
or that they had like a series of caregivers. Maybe their parent wasn't able to take care of them and gave them to an auntie who then may have given them to a neighbor when they couldn't handle it. Good efforts, but not very healthy for the child. So they've never really had that healthy attachment that we dream every child could have, right? So attachment disorders is one of the diagnoses you'll see with us. Another one that's very common is PTSD, which is a little shocking. We think more of people who have gone through terrible things, or a lot of our vets have PTSD.
Absolutely.
Some of our little ones have it as well from the nightmarish things they've encountered. Yeah.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Here on News Talk KGVO, my guest, Barb Cowan, Director of Operations for Partnership for Children in Missoula. Also, thank you to some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you the program every week. Miles Link at Opportunity Bank of Montana, Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, and Carol Blodgett at MakeItMissoula.com. Back to Barb Cowan here. What's involved in finding foster care families for these children? I think in addition to all your other duties, you're probably a recruiter at times too.
Right. Yes. So foster care is something that we do, and the youth homes does as well. They have their mental health center is called the Dan Fox Home for Kids. Homes for Kids.
Okay.
And so what we do, we do all kinds of things. We do Facebook, we do, social media. When there's a tech company in town called Luminad, and when they were more of a startup tech company, they did a lot of kind of special placement of ads for us for free, which was pretty great. And then, wherever we go, we need foster families. The state needs foster families. We need foster families. Absolutely. And it's not an easy thing. There's a lot of training and support that can be accessed, particularly if you become a therapeutic foster family, is what we call our families. But and then we do the whole licensing process. There's a home study program, all of those pieces. So again, we're working with the state when we're doing all of these activities, and then support the family with trainings, et cetera, as they go along with the child. Yeah.
You being a U of M prof, I think of University of Montana basketball. There was the head coach here a number of years ago now. He moved on to Utah State as the head coach after here, Stu Morrill. And I don't know if you know anything about their family. I cannot remember how many foster kids they had. It was staggering. Stu, you're a town unto yourself.
Right.
You talk about good-hearted humanitarians. What are some common experiences devoted foster families share with you about the relationships they develop with these kids?
Right. Well, we get the heartbreaks, and we also get all the great things, right? So I think, they share all kinds of things with us, and they also stay connected to us until adoptions occur. Oftentimes ours are adoptions with the kids that we have in our foster care system or foster care programs with Dan Fox. And, they share the firsts, and they realize the firsts may not always come on the same timeline that maybe some of their own kids that came on, because these kids really haven't done that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They also oftentimes will share the integration that their greater family has. Like I was just reading some pieces on a child that got to go visit a family in the Southwest, his foster family's extended family. and how much that meant to that child and how much it meant to the foster parents as they kind of saw this really natural embracing of each other. And even the foster child standing up for the grandma when she got a little strict, he's like, oh, no, that's just the way she is, or whatever, cute things. So they share, those normalization times or celebration times, right? Yeah.
Very, very touching. Some of the, you often hear about, the sad situation where kids grow out of foster eligibility. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. Is that a large problem? How do you try to curtail that?
That is aging out of the system is what they call that.
Okay,
and so when a child is not adopted, they are in foster care, they age out of the foster family. And I think every family's a little different with that one. But yes, statewide, it's a problem. Foster care, kids that are in the foster care system they have, unfortunately, some higher rates of becoming homeless, not having, they don't have that. If they don't stay connected to their foster families and have some help from, I guess we'd call it the state or the system, they don't have that, place that most of us have, safety net of our own families to fall back on. And so it's harder. They don't have the down payment for their first apartment that somebody else might have from their uncle or from, if they're not connected to their family. So yeah, it's a problem. Mm-hmm.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate on News Talk KGVO, and my guest, Barb Cowan. Barb's Director of Operations for Partnership for Children here in Missoula. Want you to touch a little bit, if you can, Barb, on some of the many services you offer and a little tiny bit about each one. Let's start with the perinatal wellness. Did I get that
Perfect.
right?
Yes, you did.
Perinatal wellness.
Perinatal wellness. That's fabulous. That's great. So again, perinatal refers to the pregnancy through about the first 1,000 days of a child's life.
Gotcha.
And the wellness services, of course, we want families to be supported and well from the very beginning. And that's not always true for every family. Some families are experiencing being houseless. So we actually, with the Perinatal Wellness Program, have a partnership with YWCA through their Meadowlark program, where they have both a domestic violence shelter and a housing center for families that are houseless.
They have been on this show too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, a little
That's
while
great.
back, but they've been on.
Yep. So we work hand in hand with them. We help with some classes. One's called Seeking Safety. We've also trained their staff in Circle of Security. And then we also just partner together to help the people that are living there if they need some of our services as well. So perinatal wellness, I'll tell you another donor story. We just had a mama who actually, quite honestly, I'm not exaggerating, she's delivering right now, and or today anyway. So this was a family that didn't have much for their baby. And so we put a call out, and we have an unused space. We don't have much space, it's unused, but we have a little unused space that is literally almost to the ceiling right now with the response that we got for diapers, and we needed car seats, and we needed the little things like chew toys and blankies and all those things. And the response, we've just been laughing about it. In fact, I could hardly get the door open today to put in our latest thing of diapers and wipes that someone just gave us. So perinatal wellness is trying to surround the family, but also provide the services they need. So clinical services, again, for mood disorder and also for substance use.
All right.
Issues.
How about family-focused peer support services there? So
I would have put this in the question you just asked, but I saw it coming up. So peer support services, this is a really wonderful addition to our programs. We were able to start some of these programs through a federal grant that the state divided amongst 6 agencies, ours being one of them. Peer support services are done by peer supports. That means somebody who has been specially trained and certified, but also has lived experience of either substance use problems or mental health problems.
Okay.
And that person goes in highly non-judgmentally, very much more accessible to someone who might feel nervous about accessing services or might feel judged or may feel misunderstood. This person has been there. So we have one peer support. We keep him very busy. And he is out there connecting with people in such a very real way. Research is showing that is one of the best doors for people to access help. So we're really thrilled to have peer support services.
Gosh, we're getting down to about the final 4 or 5 minutes here. I want to make sure we get this in, Barb. Barb Cowan, Director of Operations for Partnerships for Children here in Missoula on Missoula Real Estate Today at KGVO. Sponsoring businesses. I know you'd probably like to say a kind word or two about those in Missoula. How have they helped you?
Oh, my goodness sakes. Well, all kinds of ways with, actual gifts, some in-kind services. We have, again, sort of this informal piece going out and a sponsor putting the word out for us like you are right now with that perinatal wellness, et cetera. So we've had lots of different ways that people have helped us in this community. Missoula is a really supportive, wonderful, community. One thing that you do have, if we only have 4 or 5 minutes, that you have talked to me about on the questions was prospective team members. Mm-hmm. So I will tell you, this is one thing that we, along with many other, it's not just agencies that are doing good work with families and others. I know our restaurants and many other places in town have had a hard time with workforce, finding employees. It's sort of this new phenomena that I think a lot of us went into, this whole shutdown. We came out of it and said, where'd everybody go?
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So I want to put
you and I can never retire.
Never.
We entered into a contract, I guess, till we're 100 because they need us, right?
That's right. You'll never get rid of us. So I do want to say that we are looking for people that are interested in working with children in particular. And we do training and support and all of that. And if anybody is interested in working for Partnership for Children, look us up on our website, and then you can just Google us or, and get a hold of us. We have some job openings and some lovely kids that could use your love and your support. How's that?
That's very good.
Yeah.
I always ask each and every guest about success stories. I get a little personal here, but something that you have been recently involved in that made your job feel especially worthwhile to you.
Oh gosh, there's so many different success stories. I think the ones that, I think the ones that make me the happiest are when somebody or a family can come together and do some healing and do some reunification, and we watch that happen. And it's really remarkable. It's still a lot of hard work ahead, but there's nothing quite like a child getting to go back home to their own family. If that can happen, that sort of thing happens. Or, quite honestly, some of these parents who are dealing with substance use, which is, as we know, opioids and meth are a huge problem in our state and our nation. And when they can fight the fight and come out on top, it's really an amazing thing to watch, their success grow and then all the possibility for their families and children.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, in the final minute here, there are a number of ways to support you, the organization financially, Partnership for Children here in Missoula, contact information and ways you can help out as well.
Right. So again, www.pfcmt.org is our website. And again, Google Partnership for Children. You will find us. Partnership for Children Missoula. There are others in the world that chose that name also. And right on the website, we have a donor button. And you can give right there. And if people care to give to particular programs, we are happy to do that as well. And sometimes we have special activities. Well, we always have a special activities fund. And that does things like one of our kids might want to play an instrument, or they may want to join a soccer team or whatever. And we try to support all of those important areas of finding, sort of a sense of self. And you can join us in sending them to hockey camp or whatever it might be.
Barb Cowan, Director of Operations for Partnership for Children here in Missoula, has been our guest this week on Missoula Real Estate Today. You did an awesome job. I hope you can come back sometime.
Thanks, Denny. It was very fun to talk to you.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. For a complete directory of Diane's listings, visit MoveToMissoula.com. That's move2Missoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.